Do you guys remember that hairy situation that happened in South Carolina over at Fort Jackson, where we had that escapee get out of boot camp and take over a school bus? That happened over a year ago, but we're finally starting to see some results, and this situation got pretty hairy. Hairier than my mustache. Like the video if you like the mustache. My gosh, I've been working on it for so long and no one mentions it anymore. Just to give you the reminder, this is the guy's face, but this is coming from the state, and they say Fort Jackson soldier who H-worded, because YouTube, you guys understand, they try and silence everything I do here. I'm getting yellow dollar signs demonetized forever. It says school bus found not guilty by reason of insanity. Now, to give you guys the context, this kid decided it was cool to escape boot camp. He actually took the, firearm with him off of the premises, which, isn't loaded, things like that, doesn't have any rounds in it, but then tried to take over a school bus, and then he actually escaped, and then, he was caught again. But the story just got insane. It showed a lot of issues with security over at boot camp, and people were scratching their heads asking questions, but let's dive into this. They say the Fort Jackson recruit charged with Hing a school bus full of children was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Instead, Jovan Collazo, if you want to say it that way, will be committed for 120 days following a court appearance Thursday. In May 2021, Lazo or Yazo, whatever you say, left Fort Jackson in a school bus with 18 elementary school students and driver on board, the Richland County Sheriff's Department. Said the 25-year-old U.S. Army trainee from New Jersey was charged with 19 counts of K-ing, armed robbery, carjack. Got to worry about what I'm saying here because YouTube, it's been like the past week they're hitting me on everything. Says pointing an F word and carrying a W word on school property and possession of weapons. Violent crime, Richland County Court's records show. And a lot of bad words per YouTube. I'm watching myself. They're watching me. And I have to say, looking at this situation, I understand where they're getting at, where they've said this. I was not part of the psych evaluation, but I do want to understand, looking at this from if I was a parent and they let this kid go, and I, for example, had one of my 18 kids on this school bus that likely saw this, and, we're in a world where a lot of kids are being trained on what to do in these situations. Run, hide, fight, and you're on a bus. You can't do any of those things besides maybe hide under your seat. And so I wonder if there's any long-lasting effects maybe from the family as they may try and sue this city and see if they can get any kind of, justice served for some of the long-lasting damage. I don't know how old these kids were, but some of them are probably old enough in elementary school to be able to understand kind of the gist of what was happening here. They're all not just oblivious for something that was this serious. But let's get back to the story. It says, but on September 27th, 2022, a circuit court judge ordered Collazo to be evaluated by the State Department of Mental Health for his, quotations, criminal responsibility and capacity. It says the insanity conclusion was reached Thursday after two separate reports from doctors and agreed on by both the prosecution. Represented by Deputy Solicitor Dan Goldberg and Defense Fifth Circuit Public Defender Fielding Pringle, it was one of those rare occasions where we are all in agreement, Pringle told the judge. Judge Deborah McCaslin, I think is how you say it, says, accepted the conclusion and agreed that Collazo lacked the capacity to distinguish moral and legal right from wrong at the time of the hijacking. What I look at this, and this is me kind of speculating. I don't want you guys to think I'm diagnosing or I'm, putting this on them. They actually do say in several articles that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. We're going to get to that as well. But, so he's had those formal diagnoses that are out there. But I would like to add this aspect of, this kid has left his home, has nobody that he knows, is new haircut, probably, as most enlisted people going to enlisted boot camp, don't have great coping skills and emotional awareness, and maybe has had his own past traumas or whatever else. And, maybe this was a trigger for that. As we all know, if you've ever served in the military, the words failure to adapt, adjustment disorder, or one of those things can very commonly be thrown at somebody like this. And I find it interesting that they did throw such a hard diagnosis at him. I don't know what's included in this 120-day treatment, but I'm assuming it's going to be some kind of intensive inpatient thing. And if he does have issues like this, I hope he is actually getting medications and, therapy and coping and all these other things that, maybe he might be able to get from the military if he's a veteran from this. I don't know. That's a whole question that they'd have to ask about it. But it says it was apparent from the time of his arrest and during the initial evaluations that he was schizophrenic, Pringle said. The report similarly found that Collazo was convinced that someone was coming to hurt him or his family when he escaped Fort Jackson with an unloaded M4 rifle, and H-worded the bus from a nearby neighborhood. Following interviews with other soldiers and his family, it's apparent that Collazo, who was 23 at the time of the incident, had been struggling with the early manifestation of his illness for some time. Pringle said the National Alliance on Mental Health Illness describes late teens to early 20s as typical age onset for schizophrenia in men. While unaware of the disease, his family would try to soothe his intense feelings of paranoia while Collazo lived at home in New York. And granted, yes, this kid could have lived with these symptoms for years, never known it. And, I don't think it really comes to manifestation like, oh, red flag, red flag. Like, not everybody is a trained mental health professional out there that is looking for these signs and symptoms. And obviously, the parents probably are not thinking of this as like, let me say my kid has a mental disorder. They're trying to probably say, maybe Hovind here is trying to get his life together, and maybe this will set him straight. He's got his quirks, he's got his features that make him not the normal kid. But, at least I think it sounds like they were trying to support him the best that they could. But I'm just speculating a little bit on that. They say it was just so tragic because the family just didn't know, Pringle said. Those delusions persisted and followed him down to South Carolina. I wonder what they were prior to him ever coming into the military, like what level these were at, because I can only think that they got worse. It says Collazo has been incarcerated at the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center since May of 2021. So he's been locked up the entire time. Since during that time, Collazo had accepted his treatment and was learning to come to terms with his illness, Pringle said in those 2 years. He has not received a single disciplinary infraction, she said. I don't need to tell you how remarkable that is, Pringle said. Signing off on the plan, McClasson, the judge, looked down at Collazo, who his hair grown out into ponytail from the Army buzz cut he had sported during his arrest, and says, I wish you luck, McClasson said. Now in the next part of this, it gets into the escape attempt. And I don't know how long after. I remember it was a couple days after that we saw this. I doubt they were able to get him into some facility to do some mental health screening in between then, or what risk he was at. I don't even know, did they take away shoelaces? I don't know what level they were at to try and make sure he was safe. And it's scary to think that he was locked up and nobody knew this was a situation, but I understand risk versus reward and kind of seeing what's going on. There's like, we need to put you in a box, but they do get into the escape portion in the article right here. They say Collazo's attorney, Fifth Circuit Chief Public Defender Fielding Pringle characterized the escape attempt as a desperate act by a troubled man on S-Watch. People who are thinking clearly and normally do not run around jail doors completely inwarded with their hands cupped behind their back, running into locked steel doors and jumping from the second tier to the floor below, Pringle said at the time. These are not actions of a healthy and clear-minded individual who is trying to escape. I'll tell you this. There were some crazy kids in boot camp. If you guys forget, there was Great Lakes Navy boot camp, not even like Army or Marine Corps. This kid tried to escape only like 4 years ago, running over a fence. It is insane what some of these people will do to get out of boot camp. So, I mean, maybe he was smart enough, who knows, to say, let me just go crazy and I can at least survive the 2-story jump. Who knows? I'm just speculating here, but, it wasn't until I served in the military that people will go through desperate measures in order to make sure that they can get what they want out of a situation or at least have some sort of freedom. So if you have a crazy story where someone's wanted freedom from the military, please tell me what they've done down in the comments below. Then it says, taking over the school bus. On May 7th, 2021, Collazo ran from his unit at Fort Jackson in the morning and began trying to get rides from cars on Interstate 77, authorities said. He walked to Percival Road, where he boarded the school bus with 18 children going into Forest Lake Elementary lot, said. Armed with a rifle, the recruit told the bus driver to take him to the next town, lot said. And this is where I look at. I hope every school bus driver is looking at this and saying, I do not open this door for anybody, right? Like, you have to ask as a parent, what safety procedures are happening where it says, maybe this kid in some Army PT gear and a little rifle might be a good guy. It could be a bad guy just dressed up as an Army soldier wearing PT gear. You could buy this stuff over the exchange or easily without needing any specific military ID. You could go at like a Goodwill store and get this stuff. So I will say, interesting that they ever allowed on the bus. I think I mentioned that in my first video talking about this. They say Collazo's rifle, an M4, did not have any ammunition because neither live rounds or blanks are being issued to trainees, which is true. Says the commander, Brigadier General Milford Beagle said, with the bus on the move, the trainee brought all the kids to the front of the bus where they began to frustrate him with lots of questions, according to Lott. Yeah, man, what are you doing on my bus? I got homework to do, guy. I got afternoon cartoons. Says after traveling about 3.5 miles, Collazo had the driver stop and let the kids and driver off, the sheriff said. Collazo drove a couple miles but soon abandoned the bus and left his rifle on board. Collazo had difficulty driving the bus, according to the sheriff. They say after leaving the bus on Old Percival Road, Collazo tried to get rides and clothes when he was spotted on I-77 and was taken into custody without incident, according to the Lott. The students and driver were not physically injured. While they had the opportunity to be present, none of the children or the bus driver chose to be in court Thursday morning, Goldberg said. And said Lott praised the children of the bus driver's training, which allowed him to remain calm and deal with the situation. Lott called the bus driver a hero. I don't know if that's a hero, maybe mitigating risk. Maybe he thought this is some soldier. I don't know. You know, obviously it's a military town, and you know there's a million things going on in this bus driver's head. At least nobody was hurt, and Collazo had some sanity to let the kids go, and maybe, you know, leave his rifle back with the bus. But, you know, I look at this. Do you guys think that this is a case of insanity? Do you think, like me, where I'm like, is this just desperate attempt for fleeing boot camp and just triggering something? Or do you guys think this is actually what it is? I mean, like I said, we're not part of the interview, but, you know, yes, jumping off a 2-story balcony doesn't seem like it. Yes, you know, taking over a bus and running away again over and over again doesn't seem like a likely thing. Like he understood the ramifications of what he was doing. But I leave this to you guys down in the comments below. What do you guys think? And if you guys like topics that I cover on this channel, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.